didn't think the show was going to succeed because I thought it was so, the material was so idiosyncratic. It was so specific to where I'm from, New Jersey, New York. You know, we've all seen mob movies and we love the mob movies, but I don't know if a television show about the mob is going to be that interesting, because I thought, maybe after a season or two it's going to get old. But I quickly learned that it wasn't necessarily so specifically about the mob. It was really about a man living, with a difficult wife, complicated kids, a suburban existence, and so you kind of mix somebody trying to live a normal life with his connections to the mob, and you get a great combination. So in the end, I always say it was really a family show. I don't think any of us were prepared for what it became, which was a phenomenon. By the third season, you'd be out with those guys, the guys from the cast in New York, and you felt like you were with the Rolling Stones in 1972.
Are you in the mafia?
Am I in the what? I'm in the waste management business. It's a stereotype. And it's offensive.
I actually initially auditioned for the pilot to play the priest, to play Father Phil. I think it was Father Phil, Father Tim?
No, it was, what's his name? Father Intintola.
Yeah, and he had a thing for Carmela. He was, yes. So I auditioned for that part, didn't get it. Thank God, actually, because he didn't last long. So I knew the show. So then when the show started shooting, they called me in for the part of this FBI agent, a small part. And I came and read for David Chase and the producers, and they actually asked me in the room, could you come back tomorrow and read for a different role, a bigger role? And I was like, sure. So I was, my path into the show was kind of haphazard, because and then to get on the show for what was supposed to be one episode, which, as you said, turned into 7 seasons and 26 episodes, I think.
And make a great sandwich here. No getting around it.
And what about that disease you picked up over there in Diarrhea Stan, or wherever the fuck you were?
This might be the cure.
Once I started doing the show, FBI guys would come up to me on the street like, hey man, how you doing? Love you on the show. You do a great job. Like, they would also talk to me about, like, some of their favorite scenes weren't the most exciting. They're like, yeah, when you're staking out the house and you're bored out of your mind and you're just like eating a sandwich, like, that's it. Like, we spent hours keeping ourselves entertained because we're so bored, because we're just waiting for a guy to walk out of a building, or we're waiting to issue a warrant, or we have to fill out the paperwork because this just happened.
Any thoughts at all on why you blacked out?
I don't know. Stress, maybe.
I'm sure for the writers, everybody, the pressure, David Chase, I know, felt it to continue to put out a product that was amazing, because those first 3 seasons are incredible. And then when we lost Nancy Marchand, who played Tony's mother, she died. A big part of the show was the relationship between Tony and his mom. David really wrote the show about a mob guy who's in therapy because his mother has messed with his head. So when she died, they had to change the show a lot, and I know they struggled with that, but obviously found our footing.
What do you think Dad does for a living?
Waste management.
Sometimes you're so naive.
A show about the mob is always going to need the FBI. Always.
Yeah.
It's just to remind people, because you start to get seduced into liking Tony, like, oh, he's so great and everything. It's like, make no mistake, he's a sociopath. He is killed, he'll kill again. He has, no regard for human, morality, decency, all these sort of things. So the FBI was there, and I said I was the bad guy. People would spit on me in the streets of New York.
Bingle has left the building. They fucking made me.
Until late in the run of the show, my character started helping Tony, and I was giving him information, and all of a sudden, so now my tenure on the show ended on a high note. So the fans love me, and I said, yeah, but don't forget, you all hated me for those first 3 or 4 seasons, because literally people would be like, leave Tony alone, da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the bad guy, the FBI.
If I was to know something possibly terror-related and help you out, could I bank the result in goodwill?
I loved the dynamic, because all of a sudden, it was just 2 guys, because it's the same thing, like they established very much that I'm just another suburban New Jersey dad, that is, as you begin to discover, cheating connected the two.
Leave it out, all right? I'll heat it up. What? Then don't leave it out. What do you want me to say?
You got a rough enough job with this terrorism shit.
The good guy, the bad guy, that both, I chased him all day long, he doesn't care, we kind of both know what we're doing. So that symbiotic relationship was great because, like I said, it ended the show in a great place for me, but also my scenes with Jimmy began to be more interesting. They were not all antagonistic. It wasn't that kind of like, listen here, we're going to catch you, do that. Because then my favorite scenes were the ones where I'm just sitting at the pork store drinking espresso, talking to him like a friend or at least an acquaintance, and giving him information or talking about, and then I needed his help. Those last couple seasons, I am now trying to find terrorists. So I'm saying, listen, anything you can do to help, and he does. So it was great. It was great. And like I said, the fact that my storyline expanded, really, I then became part of the fabric of the show, and I felt great.
I would personally write you what's called a 5K letter. Say a document setting forth your cooperation and service. If you were ever convicted of a crime, it'd be presented to a judge when he or she would be considering sentencing guidelines.
A lot of television shows in America, they start airing the shows as they're still shooting new episodes. David would shoot all 13, edit all 13, and move things around. Sometimes, like a scene from one episode, he would feel like would work better, and he would move it all the way out of that episode somewhere else. So the whole thing was like an opera, like a 13-hour epic opera that he could move pieces around, cut things out, put an amazing soundtrack on it. So and then start airing it when he finally felt it was ready. And so that's a real luxury that most producers in the States at that time in the 90s did not have.
Got yourself a gun. Got yourself a gun. Got yourself a gun.
I thought the writing came back full circle, were stronger than ever, because you definitely want to go out on top. And I thought those last couple seasons were our best. They were amazing. And also, I liked that, just like a good story, it was going to have an end. Like so many shows, they leave it open for a possible movie. No, they were making sure that the audience knew and that the actors knew this is the end, because they're going to kill off a lot of people. You knew there'd be a bloodbath. But also just the way the storyline was set up. I mean, it was very, in spite of what people think about the ending, it was, that little abrupt ending was very final. I think it just was kind of like, oh, it's over. It's over. I've always, years gone by, I mean, I didn't used to know how to talk about it, but now I'm very, certain that what that ending suggested was the death of Tony Soprano. The fact that we're sitting here talking about it 12 years later, means it's genius, because good art survives, and it gets discussed decades later, 100 years later, 1,000 years later. You can still discuss Shakespeare, you can discuss Greek tragedy. I said, that's good art. And I said, so the fact that we will continue to have these, didn't he, is he alive, is he dead, it means it's genius.
Got yourself a gun. Got yourself a gun. Got yourself a gun.
He was amazing. I mean, a big teddy bear of a man. He really was. I guess the thing that it was so just sad on top of the human loss of him dying is that I wanted him to have a long career to show people that Tony Soprano wasn't an acting performance, because so many people wanted Jimmy to be like Tony, and he wasn't. He was a big, lovable guy, college educated, studied acting, so, he was not Tony Soprano.
The minute I met Tony, I knew who that guy was. On my second date, he brought me and my mother each a dozen roses and my father a $200 power drill.
That's what was so scary. When you do see scenes where he was angry or mad or ready to kill, I mean, the look in his eye and all of that was amazing, because everything else, he loved to laugh. He had appetites for food and drink and people and conversation and music, and so it was all a performance. A consummate professional, kind of the patriarch of the set, always making sure everybody was okay. And he did a lot of stuff off camera that the fans will never know, and a lot of the cast doesn't talk about, because it was just very personal. But he just took care of people that needed help, and he was just an amazing human being and a huge loss. And I'm very happy his son is now acting, and he's a part of the Sopranos movie that's going to be coming out next year, playing Tony Tony Soprano.
Yeah,
Tony
yeah.
Soprano.
He's so
Crazy.
look alike.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And really, when I heard that news, because like all about, it's a prequel, so none of us are going to be in it. It's going back in time to before the show starts. So time-wise and the storytelling. So nobody from the show's in it. So I was kind of like, and then I heard about Michael, Jimmy's son, stepping in to play him, and I thought for that alone, it's all worth whatever they're doing, because that's just gonna. I can't think of another situation where an actor is playing their parents, you know, in younger life. It's just the idea of it was just crazy, and I thought it gave me chills when I heard it. So I love that. It's just it's an iconic moment, I think, in filmmaking. That I think the storyline, as far as I understand it, is going to center around the Moltisanti. So Christopher's father. I don't know if we see a young Christopher in the movie or not, but it's also good because it's an interesting time. I live in that neighborhood now in New Jersey. I lived in Manhattan for 25 years, but I've moved out to New Jersey, into this area by Newark, and that is the movie takes place in that whole environment, but in the late 60s, and it was a very dangerous time, a lot of race riots and struggles between the police in different neighborhoods, and I love that they're starting there, because that is it was an incredible time in America, in politics, in art, music. I mean, you've seen movies set in that time period, but I also think it was a transitioning time for the mob, where the old school Frank Sinatra 1950s mob idea of like the Godfather transitioning through drugs and the different types of things. And I'm sure they're going to explore a lot of that. The mob was kind of never the same after the 60s and 70s, and they kind of went into different types of business.